Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I am so glad that you're here, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook or Twitter right now. Today, I want to take a moment to talk about a new wireless HDMI transmitter that I'm using. So I actually have the receiver right here, and the transmitter is out in the yard. It's looking at this fox right now. You could see it out on my uh, just out in the yard on a little tripod, taking a look at that fox. And this is the shot we're getting. And then it's feeding into this receiver right here. I have the whole thing going into a little mixer box. We can talk about that too, the Feel World L2 Plus. But I thought this would be fun to test this thing out today and see if it could handle this production. Also, tell you about some of its features and just generally be here live on the internet for you to ask questions. Anything you want to know about documentary filmmaking, we can talk about. I'll be taking a look at the questions that are coming in on Twitch and YouTube, wherever you are. Also, I'd love to know where you prefer to watch live streams, so let me know in the comments. So one thing I did that I thought would be kind of fun is, let me go to this the shot of the box again. So I actually put the camera on a little Edelkrone pan head. Let's see, we could see it there, but I noticed something funny. So the pan head is the thing that's like in between the tripod and the camera right now. The funny thing is, I paired it to my phone. I think it uses Bluetooth, this Edelkrone thing, and it pairs over there by the window. But then as soon as I walk back here, it doesn't work anymore. So I'm going to walk over here and see if I can make it work. I'll switch over to the fox shot. We'll see if I can make this pan work here. Oh, there it goes. It's moving. So it works over here. But as soon as I try to bring this, the moment I try to bring it back over here to me, it just doesn't work. So I guess we'll just leave my phone over there in the window. So if you were watching when I started doing this live stream, I showed you a video that I made last year. I reviewed this company Holyland. They sent me another live stream or another HDMI transmitter device called the Mars 300 Pro, and then they just now sent me this one, which is a more souped up version called the COSMO C1, and this thing actually retails for $900, I think, for the receiver and the transmitter. They say it's more powerful than the last one. The last one was could receive at 400 feet line of sight. This one, they say it's 1,000 feet, which I believe them because the last one I tested, they said it was 400 feet, and I tested it, and it did seem to work to 400 feet. But one of the really cool things about this one, besides the fact that they just made it a little bit more beautiful, I like that this one actually says like receiver on the bottom. Just makes it a little bit easier. I think the transmitter has a red little icon on it. Pretty similar features. It auto finds the other one, so it's really simple to set up. But one of the things that's exciting about this one is it has SDI if that's something you need, and then it also can be powered through an L series battery like the other one. It can be powered through a DC power plug that it comes with, and it can also be powered through USB-C, which the other one could do as well. But one of the interesting things about this one, the fact that it has the USB-C, is you can actually plug this directly into your computer and it works as a webcam, like as a capture device. So, for example, this feed that I'm doing right now, I'm actually sending it from that. I'm actually sending it through a bunch of different things. I have my cameras coming into the mixer box. The mixer box is going up to a monitor that I can see my feed, and then that whole thing is going out to a Elgato Cam Link to come in as a webcam. But if you wanted, what's cool about this receiver is I like the idea that you could just plug this receiver right into your, you could plug the transmitter right onto your camera, plug the receiver right into your computer via USB-C, and your computer will recognize it as a webcam. So like you could do a Zoom call where you just have a floating camera that you walk around with, because this thing could plug right into your computer, make it into a webcam, and then you're just running around with your other camera. So let's see what everyone's saying on the internet. My good friends, like my good friend Nick, says that my audio sync on Twitch is a bit off. So I'll have to do a test afterward and figure out how to fix my audio sync. I'm curious if it's different. It's probably the same offset problem for all channels. Let's see. Yeah, like Alvar on YouTube says, don't want to be that guy straight away, but is the feel world creating a bit of a delay between the picture and audio right now? That's possible, and that's a good thing to talk about, because on this Holyland device, one of the things they promoted is that this one has 40 milliseconds of delay, of latency, whereas the last one I tested had 100 milliseconds of delay. So this one should be a little bit better for things like focus pulling. I generally thought 100 didn't look that bad, but it would look bad from a audio sync standpoint. And to your point, Alvar, this Feel World mixer that I'm using may be the thing that's adding a delay. So I'll have to see if I can correct for that. Well, and so Cubase Elementary on YouTube writes, I don't know much about the L2 Plus, but it looks like the audio is being sent in via a 3.5 millimeter jack, which, yes, this device does have a 3.5 millimeter jack on the side. It also has USB. This thing can actually be a webcam as well. It can plug into the computer, and it has LAN on the side. But I'm not actually using the audio jack here. What I'm doing is I'm using this Blue Baby Bottle mic going through an audio interface coming into the computer through USB. So I guess I just need to adjust my audio delay. I'm new to this. I mean, I've done several live streams over the years, but this is my first time streaming to Twitch, and it's my first time streaming to multiple platforms at once. So I appreciate the feedback I'm getting about, yeah, everyone's saying everything's out of. I guess here's a question for you, for you all. Which is coming first, the audio or the video? Which direction do I need to fix it? That's the big question. That's what I'm hearing on YouTube. Let's see. Nick is on Twitch right now. I appreciate any of you who are on Twitch, because I have no audience on Twitch. I have all my audience on YouTube. So those of you who have jumped over to Twitch and are now following me there, I appreciate that, because you're helping me build my initial audience. I have nothing right now. My friend Matt Fry is telling me that he'll give me some subs if I get some more kills in this video game. This is not a very exciting game I'm playing right now. The filmmaking video game, where all I can do is control the panning of a little fox in the backyard. It's still going strong. The feed is still working. I was kind of worried because it's out in the cold, and it's very cold and very icy out there. So I'm glad to know that, one, the battery on the transmitter is still going. It's a big battery, though. It should be fine. The battery in the camera is still going. The battery on the Edelkrone presumably is still going. Let me try moving it. Do another pan test. Oh, there it goes. You can see we got a lot of snow recently. All right, what else? Okay, so my friend Brett, who's on Twitch right now, he says that he thinks the audio is coming first. So let's see if I can just right in my mic adjust my properties. Let's see. There is a sync offset. Let's move it to like 300 milliseconds. Let's see what that does. All right, so now I've moved my audio 300 milliseconds forward. We'll give a count here. You can tell me if it's worse or better. 1, 2, 3, 4. Also, I should probably just clap. I love that we're doing just like a slate test live here. My friend Dustin Neal's here on Twitch. Thank you for joining me. Oh, Rebel Redbird, my friend Brett says it's way better. So I went in the right direction, clearly. And I feel like I do this a lot in the edit. If you're ever like just syncing up stuff, is sometimes I'm playing it back and like, well, it's closer now. I moved it 9 frames that way, and I just kind of go back and forth until I get it. The sub network says I'm synced, so maybe 300 milliseconds was it. I guess that means what? My audio is getting there first? I don't know. Or maybe my video is so delayed through the field world and all that. I am sending it through too many devices that the audio was probably getting there first. Now we're delaying the audio and it's landing at the same time as the video. Sorry for all of that. Thank you for helping me live here correct a problem. Let's see what people are saying on... Is anyone watching this on Twitter? Does anyone watch live stuff on Twitter? I'm using a service called Restream, which I've never used, but I clearly knew that I wanted to stream on both Twitch and on YouTube at the same time. And there's Twitter, so I figured might as well. I have a decent sized audience on Twitter. I have a decent audience on Facebook, so I'm streaming there as well. It also says I could stream on LinkedIn, which I think you need to be verified for like LinkedIn live streaming. Not sure if anyone's doing LinkedIn live streaming. So wherever you are right now, I'd love to know. I mean, you don't even have to tell me that you like Twitch if you're talking on Twitch, but tell me where else you consume live content. Are you watching live streams on YouTube in addition to Twitch? Or do you ever watch a LinkedIn? Who has ever watched a LinkedIn live stream? Not sure anyone's talking to me on Twitter. There are lots of people on Facebook. Let's see. Stuart Fell also pointed out the audio sync problem on Facebook. And he also pointed out that it was the audio that was coming in first. And let's see. He also said it's better. So everyone on Facebook is happy. Tom Arthur is also there on Facebook. Thank you for watching, Tom. Thank you, Stuart. Thank you for letting me know it's working. Yeah, the sub network on Twitch is like, Twitter has live video? I guess I knew Twitter had live video. I've watched live breaking news on Twitter. I've watched like court decisions on Twitter. I just didn't know I could do it myself. Guess I'll double check. Yeah, if you just like go to my Twitter account, Griffin, or twitter.com/Griffin, it's right there going live. Let's see what people are saying on YouTube. Everyone on YouTube is happy that it's better. Thank you, Damien, for letting me know it's better. Thank you, John Cumming, for letting me know it's better. Bright Shine, Scott Slaughterbeck. Everyone, thank you so much for the feedback. Luke Westwood is here. I always get lots of good Luke questions on the podcast videos. Scott Slaughterbeck says, no, he does not watch LinkedIn live video. I've definitely never watched a LinkedIn live video. Yeah, and I agree with Vinny Langdon, who says just sticking with YouTube these days, there's just too many social networks. I mean, that's part of why I'm streaming on Twitch today. Is like I feel like I'm behind the times because like I've been doing most of my content creation on YouTube. I even, as I was setting this up, I thought, wait, why did I not even think about Vimeo? Vimeo does live streaming, and I looked into it, and I think Vimeo can also do kind of a restream service where it like sends it out to multiple places, but that requires an extra subscription that you pay to Vimeo. You have to pay for Vimeo Enterprise, and I'm a Vimeo Pro user, but I don't think I feel like I'm getting my terminology wrong. It's not even Enterprise; it's like Vimeo Premiere or something. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a different layer that's on top of my Vimeo Pro. And the only reason I have Vimeo Pro is because I still sell Sriracha, my documentary, on Vimeo, and you can do video on demand, paid videos right on Vimeo. And I still love that platform for that. Cubase Elementary has experience using Vimeo for live streaming and says the latency on Vimeo is awful. Which I'm guessing you just mean the time between when it comes out of my computer and when it actually lands on for the audience when they finally see it. Because actually, I'm pretty impressed by the delay that I'm getting right now on all of these platforms right in front of me, YouTube and Twitch. It all seems like it's coming out like 4 seconds after I say it. So that's pretty good. Meaning I have no time to shut this off. If something goes horribly, horribly wrong, you're going to see everything. Norn I on Twitter pointed out that my video is out of sync on Twitter as well. And also pointed out that the audio was first. I appreciate that there's people on every on every platform letting me know how to fix this. Thank you. Scott Slaughterbeck asks, are you still making money on your documentary? I am. And isn't that insane? I mean, the documentary came out in 2013. So that was 8 years ago in December. And it still sells like, I still sell like one copy on Vimeo, I think every other day. I think I'm selling 15 copies on Vimeo a month. And then it also is on, actually, I think they may have taken it off Amazon Prime finally. It was on Amazon Prime for a long time. And it's on iTunes. It's on a bunch of platforms. And I still have some companies helping me sell it to various, I mean, every once in a while it ends up on like a Delta flight. And I get paid a licensing fee from Delta to be on their in-flight entertainment system. So I'm amazed that it's still making money every month, even though it's a small amount. But I encourage everyone, all filmmakers watching this now, I've always said you should diversify your income streams if you can. And it's not like I make a living income off of the film or any of the, like YouTube revenue. I don't make enough to like live on or anything. But all of these little things, like if YouTube makes $200 a month over here, if affiliate links make $100 a month over here, if Sriracha still sells like $50, or I don't know what it works out to. It's probably $50 or $80 a month for Sriracha. These things all add up, and they give you a little cushion so that if you have to quit your job and go 100% freelance, you can. But I encourage you to make lots of little things. Like the two things I sell on Vimeo are my film, and a few years ago I made a 1-hour crash course on filmmaking. It was a seminar that I was doing for Illinois State University. And I decided, well, as long as I'm performing this for them, I might as well film it and then I can monetize it. So I put it on Vimeo and I tried to sell it for really cheap. It's $5 for this 1 hour, I think a pretty useful 1 hour. If you're kind of like, if you're someone who has a little bit of gear and is wondering how to go from pretty amateur to just like, how do I make this look professional? How do I get better lighting, better sound, all of those things, and go from like a home video quality to professional quality. That's what this hour-long thing is. I sell it for $5, and a few years ago I put it on Indie Mogul, and so it's kind of attached to a relatively popular free video I made, and I said at the end, like, well, if you liked this, go buy this thing. And that actually still sells pretty well. I think it outsells Sriracha. So it's nice to have two different things on Vimeo that are each making a little bit of money. So I get a nice little monthly payment from Vimeo. Arguably, if I wasn't working full time, I should just keep doing things like that, like make a how to edit seminar and sell that for $5 a piece and try to sell it to as many people as I can. But also, I've always said, the more work you make, you never know which things are going to reach people. So, I think if you can make a passion project, whether you sell it or not, if you make a comedy video, make a tutorial video, if you try a bunch of different things and monetize some of them in different ways, whether it's advertising or affiliate links or selling directly to an audience, it can be a good way to diversify your offerings and how you reach people and what opportunities come back to you, and also maybe make some money that helps support what you really want to do. Vinny Langdon on YouTube wants to know about the Holyland transmitter and how I might use this on a documentary interview shoot. Well, the main reason I'm interested in HDMI transmitters is because I find myself doing this a lot. I find myself like setting up a shot. Right now I have a key light right here, which we can talk about if you have questions about it. I also have a backlight hitting me on the shoulder right now with some blue light. And what I find myself doing a lot is like going over here, messing with the light, trying to like see the monitor. It's actually pretty helpful. I have a big monitor up right now. But when I'm running around a set, setting something up, it can be kind of annoying to keep going back to the camera and see, and be able to just like see like, what is that in the corner over there? And so for me, having an HDMI transmitter primarily is just a way to like walk around with a monitor and see it wherever I want. The reason I'm doing this live stream today, though, is because it seems to me that an HDMI transmitter is most useful for something like this. Like I'm thinking about, could I put something out in the backyard? Granted, this is not a great test of the distance of this thing, because this thing should be able to go 1,000 feet, and I've put it like 30 feet away through a window. And, but, you know, what creative things could I do in a live stream with a camera that is somewhere else? Maybe it's actually attached to something that's moving around. I actually think I mean, this is just kind of a fun thing to do, stick it out in the yard. I should bump up the ISO on this camera. Or just knock this ND filter off. No. It's a pretty dark ND filter. I guess I'll leave it on, and I'll just bump up the ISO a bunch. But a smarter use than just like sticking this out in the yard, I think would be, and maybe I'll bring it in depending on how long the stream goes, would be right now just throwing this transmitter onto a handheld camera. And then I just have the ability like to start showing you like, hey, look at this camera up here. Look at this light over here. So maybe I'll do that. Although it may just be easier for me to grab this camera back here that's hooked up to HDMI and send it right in. Really, this stream is just an excuse for me to like use all the stuff that I have, because normally, you know, the kinds of documentary shooting I do, normally I'm using 1 or 2 cameras, 1 or 2 lights, a microphone. That's about it. Today is a fun test to use like my monitor here that I can see my feed, to use this new mixer that I really would have no other reason to use except for something like this. An excuse to use the HDMI transmitter, and an excuse to use so many cameras. I do have a bunch of cameras. Right now I have, let's see, the feed that's looking down on us. This is actually just like mounted with a, I have like a boom arm hanging over me right now. That camera is a GH5. The main camera that I'm shooting with today is a GH5S, which is always what I go with to shoot myself when I'm on a tripod. And then my other 2 cameras are, this is a GH5 Mark II, and the camera that's shooting that camera is also my other GH5 Mark II. Those were both pre-production models that Panasonic let me have to test out when they first released the camera. I guess this shot's a little bit blurry, and that's because I'm shooting through glass, so it's not a perfect shot. But yeah, normally I don't get to use all these cameras. And before it sounds like I'm bragging about all the gear that I'm fortunate enough to have, I luckily didn't have to buy most of this stuff. I'm not sure I would be able to afford all of this equipment. You know that I am a ambassador for Lumix, so they give me, I think all of these cameras have been provided to me. This Feel World, switched to the wrong thing. The Feel World mixer has been given to me to review. The Holyland device has been given to me to review. I mean, honestly, to answer your question about what would I use this for, I'm not sure I would buy this for $900. They do have cheaper ones. I mean, this is like their high-end one with some really fancy looking antenna on them. I'm not sure I would buy this one just because I don't necessarily need such an expensive transmitter. I was pretty happy with here's the one they sent me last year. This is the Mars 300 Pro. And I mean, they've made this new one more beautiful than this one, but it's generally the same kind of device. Although this one doesn't have SDI. So if you need SDI, you probably need the more expensive one. The Mars 300 Pro is all HDMI. One thing that this Holyland thing came with, and I'm curious, I'll check the comments. I'm curious to know who might know what these are. The Holyland transmitter receiver came with these little weird antennae, and so I'd love to know if you know what they're for. I do know what they're for now. I'll tell you in a minute. But it's just funny that I took these out of the box, had no idea why you would need these special antennae, and I have an FCC license. I'm a ham radio operator, so you'd think maybe I would know what this kind of thing is for, but I don't. Let's see if anyone knows. Scott Slaughterbeck points out that the Holyland transmitters are really nice. He used one on set a year ago. Yeah, I mean, the last ones I tested worked really well. I'm sure when I do my full test and video of this transmitter receiver, I'll be perfectly happy with it. Let's see. Scott also wonders if I have a course on monetizing my videos. This is a comment on YouTube. I should make something like that. These are all the things, like, I make a list of like all the things I would love to make a little seminar about, whether it's a free video or a paid video. There's a lot of things I'd love to make, and I just ultimately don't have time to do everything. So hopefully this live stream is useful for you. Hopefully there's some things we can talk about today that are helpful, that I would just never get around to producing. Ryan Kranick on YouTube points out that green is my color. I did actually change my shirt before this shoot because I knew that I like this color a lot. I think it complements my red beard. Thank you, Ryan. Let's see what people are saying on Facebook. Tom is wondering on Facebook if I think the course and Sriracha on Vimeo would still be making money if I didn't have the big audience that I do. That's a great point. I mean, the only reason I can monetize these things is because I was able to build an audience first on YouTube. And, I mean, like, that's primarily why people buy the course on Vimeo, is because I promoted it at the end of an Indie Mogul video. And this was like a couple years ago when I wasn't even running the channel anymore, but I was invited to come back and make some videos for the channel. And this is a thing in video and social media marketing called, I've always called it tastemakers, where a lot of times if you don't have a huge audience, and I don't have a huge audience myself, you need access to an even larger audience to get your stuff out there. And so in this case, the Indie Mogul channel is the tastemaker. They have the bigger audience than I do. So if I can bring something interesting to that audience, I mean, people are still stumbling upon that Indie Mogul video, getting to the end of it and going, oh, I like this guy Griffin, and I like the video he just made for free, and maybe I would like to spend $5 to watch this full length hour. And so I think that's got to be primarily what's driving the traffic. So whatever it is you make, whether it's a film you want people to watch or something you want to sell, you have to figure out how to get it in front of a larger audience. And you're not going to do it by building an organic audience just yourself. I mean, you might, but the best way to build more audience is to get featured on another channel, to work with a tastemaker somehow, to develop your own audience. Let's see. What are people saying on Twitch right now? The sub network pointed out that he or she or they watch 90% Twitch, 10% YouTube. My friend Brett points out that Reddit has a live feature. Yeah, I'm on Reddit a lot, and I see that live stream a lot. I did not see that as one of the options that Restream could do. And I'm curious. I was talking to a guy who does live streams professionally, and I mentioned Instagram live feeds. And just like, I've seen people like go to Reddit and Instagram at the same time. And he pointed out that that's against Instagram's terms of service, which I don't know this myself, so that could be wrong. But it would make sense that they would put something in the terms of service that you can't just like spam all these different platforms. Although I hope that's not what you feel like I'm doing. I'm just doing it because I'm trying to reach you where you are. But Instagram Live is vertical, and maybe they don't want you just sending the same old content that you're sending to all these horizontal platforms. But I'm sure there is software that lets you reorganize your feed for these different platforms. I'm just not sure if you're necessarily allowed to do it. Maybe I'm not allowed to send to Reddit unless I just do it straight to Reddit. Someone can probably tell me the answer to that. Let's see. Nick on Twitch, my co-host of the podcast, Hey Indie Filmmakers, points out, why is this live stream just the co-host and not the star of the podcast? I have figured out, I mean, I do have the capability in OBS. OBS is the software I'm using to live stream today. I do have the capability to bring in like a Zoom and even like crop a Zoom and bring it into OBS. So I suppose I could bring in guests, although right now that's too technically challenging for me. I mean, come on, Nick, this is my first Twitch ever. It's too advanced for me on day one. Nick says these look like omni antennas, which I'm not familiar with that phraseology. In the Holyland manual, these are called mushroom antennas, which looks right. And Brett also says that was his guess, omni. Let's see if anyone else had guesses on YouTube. So in the manual, it says that these mushroom antennas, or omni antennas, maybe that's what they are, is for when there's a major height difference between the transmitter and the receiver. And I don't know enough about, I should know enough about the physics of antennae, but I'm kind of assuming that, I mean, I think these will probably work in just about any orientation I put them in, but I'm kind of assuming that it's best to be like parallel, like these ones should be parallel to the receiver ones. But if these are on a completely different plane, really high up, let's say the transmitter is really far down below and the receiver's way up high, or the other way around. Yeah, I called this the transmitter. This is the receiver. I should know because it has the little blue thing on it. But if they're at different elevations, I guess this works, which makes sense just from a shape point of view. I imagine this radiates upward and downward rather than out. I don't know. I don't really know how antennae work, but that's what this is for. So it comes with this. It also comes with a little ball joint adapter. So I'll take a look at what other questions you have. I'm also interested to talk about, if you're interested to hear about it, the new lighting that I've been using recently. So if you have any questions about lighting, I'm going to talk about the aperture lighting that I'm using. But also, if you're curious about any of the equipment that I have here around me or in my gear cabinet back here, we can talk about that. On YouTube, I got a comment from Animation Creations 42. Wait, didn't you do live streams back in the Indie Mogul days? Yes. In fact, I was just looking today. I had one live stream. It was like the Indie News finale. This must have been like 2013 or something. That I think it has like 1.2 million views on it. So let's see if we can do that today. Let's talk about our viewership right now. Right now we have only 32 watching on YouTube, so not quite 1.2 million. Can I see how many I have on Twitch? Oh, it may just be 5 people. This is why I need to build the Twitch audience. But yeah, I played around with live streaming back on when I was doing Indie Mogul. Back then I was using Wirecast software, which I don't think is all that different from OBS here. I do love playing around with OBS because if you haven't used OBS, not only can you do live streaming with it, and I'd love to know in the comments what live streaming software you prefer to use if you're doing this. Do you use OBS? Do you use Streamlabs? Do you use Twitch Studio? I haven't had experience in all of these. I've downloaded several of them. OBS is the one I've played with most, and if you've never used it, it may be worth downloading just because in this pandemic, if you've been doing a lot of Zoom calls or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams or any of that, OBS can create a virtual camera. So you could send all your cameras in your computer, do some interesting graphical things like this little, like the little Griffin Hammond filmmaker thing I put in the corner. You could add that. You could show windows. You could do a bunch of things. You could add special effects, but you could do all of this to a Zoom webcam. OBS can be your webcam that something else can receive. So fun thing to play around with. Which is why, like I said, even if you don't have like an HDMI capture card, if you ended up getting something like this Holyland, that's why I think it's pretty cool that this can go straight out to the computer and be a webcam. So you don't necessarily have to buy a capture device, an HDMI capture device. Same with this Feel World mixer. If you don't yet have a capture device like a Cam Link, and you needed something like a mixer, this mixer can actually be your webcam. It can just plug right into the computer through USB, and it's your webcam. So you can do some fun stuff with it. Um, Although I prefer to keep going through my Elgato Camlink 4K because I noticed that the shot did look slightly different if it was coming through HDMI versus if it was coming through USB. On USB, it was a little bit more contrasty and a little bit more yellow. So I liked the way the picture looked more coming through HDMI. I just feel like I have more control that way too. Let's see. Ryan on YouTube pointed out that Restream has a cross-platform chat that combines all the chats from all these different platforms. You're right, and I think I might have that open on my computer. Let's see. Except I was struggling. This is just me like not knowing how to use a new platform. I was struggling with the combination of scheduling a live stream. It seemed like once I scheduled a live stream on Restream, it wasn't treating it the same way. It wasn't showing me my chat window. Let me launch my chat, see if it's coming through. See, I don't know. It just says the chat is ready to display messages right now. I feel like it's showing me. That's probably because I probably have like the wrong streaming ID or something. I'm probably looking at the chat for a stream that I'm not doing right now. That's what I can't figure out is how to just look at my chat for this one that I planned. So maybe someone needs to help walk me through that. I'll close this chat that's not helping me. But this is actually good because it's my first time on Twitch. I think I need to see the actual Twitch interface a little bit, and I need to click over to Facebook and all that. YOLO Snail on Twitch. Thank you. Oh, and several more people have joined me on Twitch. Thank you for coming over here. YOLO Snail points out that Streamlabs as a company are terrible, though. I'm also confused, and maybe someone can tell me this. I feel like the first time I downloaded Streamlabs, wasn't it called like Streamlabs by OBS or for like is OBS and Streamlabs, are they the same company or no? I assumed they were, that they were two different products. Nick says he played with OBS and Streamlabs. Streamlabs seems like a nicer graphical user interface. Yeah, it's true. And actually, I assumed that OBS couldn't do very much at first because it looks very bare bones. It's just, but actually, that's kind of what I love about it. It's just like the program window and a few things below, but it really is pretty powerful. I mean, almost everything you throw in there has many different properties you can adjust. I'm doing pretty simple things with it right now. All I did was a welcome video that I played before we started. Right now I'm just doing this camera feed and the little graphic in the corner, and then I have an ending video that I'll play when we go. But I was able to adjust my audio delay on the fly pretty quickly and easily. I like that I can stream this and record it simultaneously. I mean, I'm sure these are all things you can do in Streamlabs too. And you can start the virtual camera right here. It's all just right there, very easy to see. I think I played with Streamlabs a little bit and was like, oh, okay, this is very powerful. You can obviously like download a million plugins and templates that other people have developed, make your own look for your stream. But I'm not ready for all that. So OBS, the first time you open it, it may not look like something that can do a lot, but it actually can do quite a bit. It's fun to play with. Let's see. What else are you saying on Twitch? Oh yeah, YOLO Snail points out that they use OBS all the time for work. It's fun. It's great. I can't remember who did it. It was like The Verge or something. Some tech reporter did a test. This was pretty early in the pandemic, I think, where he wanted to know if his coworkers could tell if he was not there in Zoom calls. And this is one thing you could use OBS for. A very obvious use case for OBS would be edit a shot of yourself just going, and then just play it in OBS and send it as a virtual camera out to Zoom. So you could do some interesting special effects where you're not actually in the meeting. Not that I'm encouraging you to slack off at your job, but we're this far into the pandemic, you've probably figured out how to, if you're in a work from home situation, you've probably figured out how to game the system if that's what you wanted to do. Eric has joined us on the Twitch side. Thank you, Eric, for coming over from YouTube and joining me over here. if anyone is new to Twitch, I'd love for you to follow me. So the next time I do this, you'll be notified. YOLO points out, thank you, YOLO, for all your comments here on Twitch, that since OBS is open source, Streamlabs took OBS, simplified it, and monetized the hell out of it. There has been a lot of controversy with them recently about stealing other companies' products. Okay, so it's built on the back of OBS. That was my understanding, but I understand that it's an open source. I mean, that's what OBS stands for, Open Broadcasting System Service? I don't know. Anyone use Twitch Studio? And I'm curious, I imagine you can't use it for other services, although it wouldn't surprise me if you could use it for other services, because all of these services are kind of built to just like output a stream and some other service can grab it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you could somehow use Twitch Studio for other services, but it would make sense if it was just Twitch. Oh, okay. And YOLO's just telling me everything I need to know. That OBS asked Streamlabs to stop using it in their name, which makes sense because I'm sure that when I downloaded it, it was called like Streamlabs by OBS. And then more recently, I haven't seen that. Thank you. And if you want to go even deeper into this controversy, Eric on Twitch pointed out that there is a video that he watched from Harris Heller, aka Alpha Gaming on YouTube, explaining the Streamlabs controversy. Thank you for that context. And thank you everyone who's watching me on Twitch right now. Let's jump over to YouTube and see what people are saying over there. Let's see. Yeah, Kodokan is also telling me about Streamlabs taking the OBS name. Luke Westwood on YouTube wants to know if I ever got the Pedco Ultra Clamp sponsorship that I've been dreaming of for years. I have not. I'm actually only using I am using two Pedco Ultra Clamps at this moment. I should show you. I'm gonna do two things right now. Let's see. We're gonna go to my yard shot again. Make sure it's still going strong. Yep, still got a fox out there. Let's see if this pan still works. Oh, it tells me it needs to smart pair again on my phone. Let's try this. Smart pairing. Okay, I'm in. It still works. I'm still good to go. Let's see. Okay, but I think at this moment, I'm going to stop doing this shot, and I'm going to bring this camera that we have here into this room. Oh. So we can see some of what's going on in this room right now. So right now I have the my longest lens, the Lumix 100 to 400 millimeter, so I could see that shot, see that camera outside. This is a fun lens for shooting wildlife. Bears. You don't want to get too close to bears. Let me put a wide lens on this. Another one of my favorite lenses is the Lumix 8 to 18 millimeter. This is a fun use case for a mixer. A mixer that has, I love that this mixer has, that it is a monitor, that you don't need to buy a monitor to use this mixer. This is a great use case because like right now I can tell from this preview shot, like, oh, this thing is way too bright. I need an ND filter for this. Actually, I might not. Just need to knock down the ISO. But it's cool that I can preview it before I go full screen with it. But yeah, now we're seeing the stream itself. If anyone remembers the live stream I did 8 years ago on Indie Mogul, you remember this is how Russell Hasenauer got in trouble. We not in literal trouble or legal trouble, just fake internet trouble. We did a thing where there were infinite like the mirror effect, and he gets sucked into the dark web. So I got to be careful here that I don't get sucked in. Right now, this may be redundant, but I have my mixer going into this Atomos Shogun recorder. I am actually recording the feed right now, which is helpful for me. I'm actually recording the feed in several places. I'm recording it on this camera. I'm recording it here, and I'm also recording it in OBS. so that I can do some stuff with this later if I want to re-edit it. But that's my setup right now with OBS. And then I got my blue baby bottle here. I got this camera up top looking down at the, it's a great one for this cutaway shot. Also just really fun to have a boom. Camera on a boom is so much fun to have it extending out over here. And then the two Pedco Ultra clamps I'm using today are this one to hold up the Atomos recorder / monitor. I'm just put it on my Peak Design tripod back there. The same tripod that's holding up that camera. I just mounted it there. And then over here on my light stand, I have my Zoom H5, which is acting as my my audio interface here. So we are 45 minutes into the stream, and I'm going to keep going if you want to keep going with me. Let's see what questions we're getting. On YouTube, Shark says, bet you can't wait to get your hands on the GH6 from Panasonic. I actually have not even looked into that recently. That's one of those things that you see rumors about the GH6. I mean, you would expect Panasonic to make a GH6 after the GH5. They made a GH5 Mark II, which I have a couple of here that I'm shooting with. That's actually what this camera is right now. And when this camera came out, everyone said, well, when's the GH6 coming? I'm sure they will tell me. If they do tell me, they'll probably also have me sign a non-disclosure agreement. So I will not be able to tell you. Which, would I just be saying all of this right now if I already knew and had signed an NDA? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know when this camera's coming out. I feel like I read some rumor that was like this kind of thing got delayed with the pandemic, but I don't know what the current status is. But yeah, I assume there'll be a GH6, and I would hope that Panasonic will involve me. They do continue to involve me on projects, so I feel like we have a good relationship, and I feel like they would like it in my hands. I would like the Griffin Hammond 6, the GH6 camera. Although, I do feel like I've talked about this before, it's like, there is a law of diminishing returns with cameras here. I mean, all these cameras are great, and they do everything I want. And in fact, if I'm doing a live stream, I don't even need the 4K on all these cameras. I am recording 4K right now on this camera, but it's broadcasting in 1080. One thing I did want to do with this camera before I continue is I see that it's on one battery bar left. This one here is still fine. It's 3 battery bars. This one up top is 2 battery bars. So let me just switch to this camera for a second. And I'm going to go ahead and pop out this battery. Might as well just replace it live. It's the great thing about having a mixer with multiple sources. And also the great thing about, I mean, we had that audio delay at the beginning, but it's great that my audio is like not coming right through the camera. It's coming through my microphone. So I can do something like this. Also, I'm curious about the quality of my audio. You know, I monitored it before I went live, but you know, I'm wondering if you hear any peaking. Like, I have a compressor and limiter applied in OBS, but I can't really tell on the fly if it's doing a good job, if it's keeping me loud enough to hear me, but also not peaking. So I'm curious about that. Let's see. The TC on YouTube says they hope that the GH6 finally fixes autofocus. I want to stick with Panasonic, but I'm probably going to replace with Sony or Canon. Yeah, I mean, people have long had complaints about the autofocus on the GH cameras. I am using autofocus right now on the Mark II camera outside, the GH5 Mark II, and it seems to be doing the job well. At first I thought, oh, I'll do manual focus outside because I love manual focus, and this is why there's a squirrel. You can see a squirrel in the background. I was hoping we'd catch some actual wildlife and not just this fox. But I'm someone who prefers manual focus anyway. Well, I should say I like push auto, and then like right now I'm pushing it and it focuses on me and then it stays. That's how I like my focus set. But I realized when I was outside, if I'm going to be moving this around on a pan, and it might, you know, we might catch something weird, it may need to refocus. I'm glad that I have the autofocus going. It is doing the job, but I agree with your point. I've done some some tests just for trying to figure out like what's a good camera for someone who doesn't know what they're doing to set up as like a streaming camera. Uh, the the Sony ZV-1, that vlogger camera, has such good autofocus, and so many Sony cameras have really good autofocus. The downside of that camera, ultimately, why I realized it cannot do streaming, though I'm curious if anyone uses the ZV-1 for streaming, is it seems like it has the problem a lot of Sony cameras have, that it overheats. And so it has some protections built in. Like I was finding at first, like this thing won't record for more than 5 minutes. And I realized there was some overheat protection thing I had to override in the menu. But then I still felt like I was finding going 20 minutes or 30 minutes in a Zoom call using this as my streaming camera, it was failing. And so I ultimately decided this is not a reliable camera I would not be using it for something like this right now. So that's one thing I do like about these Lumix cameras. I feel like they can handle this use case right here very well. And I don't want this one necessarily doing autofocus, like hunting all the time. Well, that's to your point, that a good camera wouldn't need to be hunting all the time. Harry Bow says that my audio sounds great. This is on YouTube. That you're in a sound studio, listening on a studio monitor. I'm so honored that you're listening to me on really nice equipment. Thank you. The TC points out that they do not get good results with the GH5 Mark II and autofocus when shooting docs. But you do like the Sony autofocus. And I wonder, I mean, there's many different autofocus settings. The one that I actually like to be in face tracking a lot if I'm going to use autofocus, because I like on the Lumix cameras that it's face tracking when it sees a face. And if it doesn't see a face, then it defaults to like 225 area. And then if you push the LCD with your finger, it also turns into single area focus. So you kind of get like 3 different focus modes in one. But if that's not working for you, but then again, I mean, you're saying you don't like it for shooting docs. I don't like autofocus for shooting docs. I've talked about this a lot. I prefer, I mean, I'll go to my live floating camera here. My way to shoot that I like to shoot is move my camera around, focus up a shot. Right now I'm out of focus, but then push the shutter halfway down, and boom, I'm in focus, and then I get that shot. I don't, because I'm not moving around a lot in the middle of a shot. You know, I frame up a shot like this, come in, focus it up, it's in focus, start rolling, and just hold it. This will be my shot. And I'll hold this for a few seconds. Great, I got the shot, move on to something else, focus again, get the shot. So I don't need the camera to do autofocusing on the fly, because I know that I want to control when I start and stop it. I know that won't be a satisfying answer for many people, but that's just how I shoot. I like to know when the camera's focusing and is when I'm focusing it. And I do trust the, like, I don't know, the technology. I'm sure someone could tell me which focus technology Panasonic uses. I forget. There's like the Pixel one, and I can't remember which one's which. But all I know is it works it just works. You push the button down halfway, it focuses, and it doesn't do a lot of hunting for me. I'm glad the TC likes the squirrel in the background. Thank you for all these YouTube comments. We got a career question from Trevor Christensen on YouTube. Do you have a sort of grand plan for your career, or do you tend to do what seems like the right thing in the moment? The latter. That's what I do. And I think I've talked about this before on YouTube, that for a long time, especially when I was younger, I worried that I didn't have enough ambition. You know, looking at my role models around me, the people that were older than me, I just assumed like everyone knew what they wanted to accomplish in their life, and I didn't. And so it scared me. But I think more and more I've discovered in my career that it's okay not to know, and it's okay to just kind of do what you feel like doing in the moment. And those things have led to opportunities. And then the additional layer on top of this is, if you're going to live that way, then you not have a grand plan, which I don't. Then you also hopefully can be brave enough to jump at opportunities when they come along, because weird opportunities have come along from all these different things I've decided to do. Like, hey, do you want to move to New York and work for Bloomberg News and cover politics right after you just made a documentary about hot sauce? Very different things, but yeah, I thought that sounds pretty exciting. So I was able to move to New York, but it took some bravery to be like, this thing that I don't know if I know how to do, and this city that I don't know if I can survive in. Am I willing to, and is Amy willing to come with me? We were both brave enough to make that choice. And there have been a couple moments like that. I mean, moving back away from New York, I think took some bravery on our part to decide that that was the right move with Peter. I actually hear my son Peter, my 3-year-old son Peter. He has just woken up from his nap, so maybe he'll get a chance to join us. But yeah, you don't need to have ambition. I think I've always said, do your best work and do a lot of it, because you never know which video you put out into the world is going to reap benefits, bring back results for you, whether it's financial or just like an opportunity. Be really nice to people that you work with, because I mean, you see it all the time in our industry. You don't work with the best people. You work with the people that you know and you trust and have had positive experiences with before. So every time I'm working on a project, I know I'm not the best at this. And I have to get over that self-doubt that I know there's always people that are way more talented than me. But I may be the one in the room that has the opportunity to be there. And I'm going to do my best work. And that has to be good enough. There's a reason I'm there, because people want to work with me, like working with me. So be nice to everyone, and then jump at opportunities when they come along, if you can. The TC confirms. The TC on YouTube comments that the audio is amazing. Thank you. So that hopefully answers my question that this compressor limiter is working. I won't mess with those settings, I guess. Thank you. Let's see what people are saying on Facebook. Oh, this is cool. Stuart says, one thing that is truly amazing that I'm watching this driving in the rural outskirts of Sydney. I almost asked my Google what time it was in Sydney, and then I realized I don't need to trigger everyone else's devices. So I'll Google it with the actual computer in front of me. Sydney. I'm trying to type around my microphone in front of me. Sydney time. So you can tell that I'm not a professional streamer, because I haven't worked out where to put my keyboard. It's 9 a.m. in Sydney, Australia. I did think about that. Someone asked earlier about I used to do live streams for Indie Mogul years ago, and I was trying to Google when I did those years ago, what time did I do them? Because I feel like I landed on a time that was this is a pretty good time for English-speaking people in the US and in LA and in New York, and English-speaking people in London. I think it's late in London right now. I don't know, it's probably 11 p.m. or something. And I figured I don't even know if I'm going to reach people in Australia correctly, but I did it. I managed to do it. It's early morning, Monday morning. It's people are getting back to work. So thank you, Stuart, for joining me. This is great. Yeah, I love that this is reaching people all over the world. Let's see what people are saying on Twitch. Sorry that I've left the Twitch audience alone for a little bit. I do feel like Twitch makes it easier for me to scroll back through past comments than YouTube is making it for me. My friend Matt is wondering if I purposefully planned to do this at golden hour, speaking of the time, so that the fox would look as beautiful as possible. Ooh, we are getting some golden light here. Actually, I put the camera out there with an ND filter and then thought, I purposely put a really light ND filter on it. It's an ND8, a 3-stop ND filter. At first, I almost put a darker one on, and then realized I probably shouldn't because it's going to get darker outside. Hey, I think we have a special guest coming into the studio. Hey, Pete, do you want to be on? You're on a live stream. Here, I'll let you come up onto my seat. Thank you for coming into the studio, Pete. Did you know that lots of people are watching us right now?
Yeah.
You did?
All of the people.
Well, all the people are right here. Do you see all these comments?
Yeah.
These are the people watching us on Twitch, and they're also watching us on other platforms you've never heard of as a 3-year-old. Let's see. YOLO Snail says this is one of the most expensive stream setups.
Hello.
Good test. Yeah, referring to all the equipment that I have. I mean, yeah, looking at a lot of normal streamers on Twitch, What do you need? A light, a microphone. You just see a lot of people with that like nice, with that Audio Technica, or no, I'm thinking of the Sennheiser. Well, let's not bump my microphone. You do see a lot of people with like a nice $400 microphone on Twitch, but you can probably get away with pretty simple lighting. And I'm curious what are the popular cameras on Twitch. I don't actually know. Like I said, I don't think you could get away with the ZV-1, the Sony. I'm curious if people use cameras like that, or if they're using Lumix gear, or if a lot of people are just buying like a Logitech webcam. I mean, that would do the job for a lot of people, I think. Pete, you want to see all these different shots we have? Here, why don't you go to shot number 2 for us? Hit 2. And then move the T-bar. Yeah. You've switched to shot number 2. That's the overhead shot. Now switch to shot number 4. Can you push 4?
Wait.
Yeah, that one. You're so good at your numbers. And pull that T-bar. Do you see what's on the screen up here? What is that?
Box.
It's Fox. Yeah, Peter is familiar with this Feel World video mixer. Do you want to push another button and switch to that camera?
What's it?
You can do 3. And then pull the T-bar. Yep. That's this handheld camera I have right here. I don't know if I looked over yet at that blue light that I have shining on us. That's the thing I want to talk about next is the lighting that we're using. Okay, once you do 1, Pete.
What's it?
That's a mushroom antenna. We already talked about that.
Mushroom antenna.
Mushroom antenna. Okay, pull that T-bar for me. Yeah. Okay, now we're back on camera 1. Let's see. Everyone on Twitch talking about the audio from earlier when I asked about that. Let's see. Oh, our friend Nalani is here, unfocused in IA. She is a very prolific Twitch streamer. So if you are interested in someone who's very talented at playing music, you should follow Unfocused in IA. That's Nalani. Nalani says, "Hi, Pete," and "Hi, Griffin. Thank you for coming. I love that you're here." And Eric is saying that on Twitch, he's saying that most streamers are using Sony from what I've seen, or Logitech webcams. That makes sense. Yeah, I think a lot of people would probably choose, I could imagine a lot of people choosing the same Sony camera that Nick uses, which, Nick, if you're still there, you may have to remind me. I can never remember what camera you use. It's like the A7, one of the A7s. And Eric points out that he uses the GH5 for Zoom meetings, and team calls it work, and everyone always comments on how good it looks. Yeah, I get the same thing. I mean, that's why I have this setup right now, is I love using my GH5S with this 12mm prime. It's an f1.4 lens. And so I love that it's a wide lens that can also throw the background out of focus, which, you know, that's what I was trying to figure out, like by checking out the Sony ZV-1. That's a camera that actually can throw the background out of focus pretty well for a little tiny form factor. So it can approximate this look, not quite as wide as this. I think it's closer to like a 15mm on this kind of sensor. But it's kind of a low budget version of this shot, but I just couldn't get over the fact that it was overheating all the time. Yeah, Eric says that he uses a Rokinon 12mm f2. Yeah, and Nick does use the A7C, which I can imagine would be a really good good streaming camera. Because Nick, he's saying no overheating when I'm in 1080. Did you try that with the Sony Z? Yeah, I think I was. I don't know. The Sony ZV-1 though, I was pretty impressed with it for a lot of reasons. I mean, also it's just a beautiful little camera. I think, maybe you could make it work for streaming if you can figure out the overheating problem and how to not make it stop after 20 minutes. But if you just need to shoot like 5-minute shots at a time, it's a really cool little camera. I would definitely recommend it for people who just need, content creators. I mean, it does what they promised pretty well. It's supposed to be like a vlogger camera, and it does that really well. Thank you to everyone who's sending all these comments on Twitch and on YouTube and on Facebook. And I should check on Twitter. We haven't looked at Twitter in a while. Let's see what kind of comments we're getting. We may have only had like one viewer on Twitter, and they said they had to go. And let's see. Let's go back to YouTube comments. Yeah, Xander Zrant Z is wondering, where is Nick? Nick, who I'm talking to through the comments of Twitch and who was complaining that he is not on this feed with me right now. Yeah, where is he? If you mean literally geographically, he's in the Las Vegas area. But yeah, he's not on this feed with me right now. Joel Anthony on YouTube said he did not expect life lessons from this stream, but really great advice. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm glad that we can talk about gear and careers. Pete, what's your favorite piece of gear? What video equipment that I have do you really like the most? Pete really likes being in these shots. He likes testing out microphones with me. He likes playing with mixers. He likes looking at cameras. What else do you like?
Mushroom antenna.
Here, you can hold the mushroom antenna.
You have another one.
Oh yeah, there's two of them. Yeah.
What's the other one?
Oh, I think the other one might be down in that box. I don't know.
I dropped it.
Oh, you dropped it? That's okay. Adrian Rascon, who's on YouTube, says, I've been following all your work since you first joined Indie Mogul. Thank you for sharing so much valuable knowledge for so long. Thank you very much. Ahmad says, what ND filter do you recommend? I have a really great ND filter video on my channel. If you just, I guess if you Google like Griffin Hammond ND filter YouTube, you'll probably find it. Thank you for putting the mushroom antenna in the microphone. Which I think answers that question pretty well. But I've pretty much determined that my takeaway was like, don't buy the cheapest ND filter, but the second cheapest is probably pretty good. Hoya brand ND filters I am completely happy with, and they're not too expensive. I personally use a lot of B plus W ND filters and love them, but I just after doing some stress testing on these things realized, okay, please don't pull that down, Pete.
I need a mushroom antenna to come out.
You need the mushroom antenna to come out. Let me help you get that out. Oh yeah, you really jammed it in there. There wasn't a significant difference between like a Hoya and a B plus W to me, and the price difference was like double. So I think if you're looking for ND filters, check out Hoya. They make good stuff. Oh, everyone is so happy on YouTube that Pete is here. Lots of people saying hello. Crash Landed says Pete is crushing the technical direction when he was controlling the mixer. And Scott Edwards Media is here on YouTube and says, do you use the Blackmagic A10 Mini? And also wonders what kind of live capture card I use. I have not used the Blackmagic A10 Mini, which now that I have this L2 Plus, I imagine I don't necessarily need. This is the first mixer I've ever used, actually. And so far, so good. The capture card I'm using is the Elgato Camlink 4K. Okay. I had an old Blackmagic capture card that, I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. Here, let's not push that XLR cable. Peter's trying to unplug my microphone, which would not be great. I had an old Blackmagic capture card, which was just outdated. It worked for a long time, but it was for some reason it was not working with like Google Meet and all these different services. So I just finally bit the bullet. I think I sold it to someone on eBay who probably needed this particular old Blackmagic thing. They're probably replacing something in an old setup. I sold it for, I don't know, $50 or something, and then bought my the current one I'm using, which is the Camlink, which I gotta think the Camlink 4K by Elgato, that's gotta be the most popular capture card people use. Although I'm curious in the comments what other things you guys are using, if anyone else is using like a mixer that is a built-in capture card. Like I wonder if the A10 Mini is. Or there are lots of cameras out now that can plug in directly through USB-C and be a streaming camera. On YouTube, I have a comment here from Retrospect VR saying, hi, longtime fan who's recently opened up a film and theater school alongside my videography business. That is awesome. If I had the capability, I would love to. Maybe I have time in my life to eventually like create some sort of school for video. That'd be so much fun. So I'm proud of you. I don't know if I'm proud of you. I'm excited for you. I don't know you to be proud of you, but I think it's cool. I'm glad that you're doing that. And let's see. Alongside my videography business and recently becoming a dad. Congratulations. How did you handle the work-life balance when you became a father? Well, you just witnessed some of it. Uh, I mean, I'll be honest and say it's hard. And I imagine all the fathers and mothers who may be watching this right now have experienced this. The life you had pre-children cannot be the life that you have after children. So I mean, Peter just turned 3 recently. I'm still getting used to this idea that I don't have the amount of time to do all the things I want to do. We talked about the list of things that I wish I could produce, and I just have to accept that most of those I'm not going to be able to do, because if I want to be a good dad, which I do, I sometimes have self-esteem issues where I worry that I'm only 80% of the employee that I want to be, and I'm only 80% of the dad that I want to be, and I'm only 80% of the content creator that I want to be. So that's part of why I'm here right now. Is, a live stream is a fun way to interact with you and hopefully provide some value in a way that maybe I was lacking. I'd like to be here with you today to give back and do something nice and hopefully provide some value, because sometimes I feel like I don't have time because I'm a parent. So I think, if you're getting into the idea of becoming a parent, just know that it's going to change your life completely. And I mean, you hear this from other people. It's all wonderful, and I love being a dad, but being a dad is just a new thing that I have to add on to all the other things I want to do, and it takes away time. So I can't be the content creator that I want to be. And I can't say yes to all the same freelance projects that I used to. And I also find myself saying no to some freelance projects that are just risky enough that, like, now that I'm a father, I think, I don't know if I want to go to Alaska and film grizzly bears again. Or no, they weren't grizzly bears; they were brown bears. Still dangerous. There are projects that I did before becoming a father that I was very excited to do, that were a lot of fun. Going to countries that I was very excited to go to, and I find myself turning down some of these things now. One, because of time, and two, because it's like my aversion to risk is higher now, because I just think I don't need anything to happen to me. I have this great kid at home I want to take care of. Um, Hopefully that's helpful, but everyone has to figure out that balance for yourself. I remember when Peter was first born, I was still working 100% as a freelancer, and especially when he was a baby, it was hard to find time to do the work I needed to do as a freelancer, because we moved me out of his room was my former office. So when he was born, he took over my office. My office moved out to the living room in our tiny New York apartment. It was 600 square feet, and so I had to work in the living room. But Peter spent his whole day in the living room, so I couldn't work during the day. So I pretty much was doing all my editing, like starting at 11 p.m. is when I would start my work day, and I would try to get a bunch of editing done until like 2 a.m. or something. But I just have these little windows of editing time, and life changes. Now that he's older, he takes consistent naps and sleeps overnight, and now I have an office space to work in, so I don't have to deal with that same problem. But you do have to figure out what shape does your career become to accommodate being a parent as well. Shark on YouTube has a comment about ND filters, saying the best they've found are Format High Tech, Nisi brand, and SLR Magic to be the best for shooting video during the day. So there's some more recommendations for you. Kodo Kun is father of a 3-year-old as well. It's a very fun age. He's so smart right now. Got to accept as well, I can only do so much outside work and be a family man still. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like I used to go to work, do my job, and then I could come home and I could spend hours editing a passion project or something. And I just can't do that. I have to pick one or the other so that I can be a dad too. Also harder when video work requires lots of travel. Yeah. Yeah, Pete tells me he misses me when I'm traveling, which is really cute. He says like I've been missing you, Dada. Scott Edwards Media, do you have any advice on staying self-motivated? I mean, I think that varies from person to person. For me, like an important thing is like exercising regularly, because I feel like I kind of need my blood to be flowing to have good ideas, and it kind of jump starts me for the rest of the day. That like if I made a good decision at the beginning of the day to exercise, that maybe I'll get better work done. I won't be lazy all day. But it can be difficult, especially when you have all these different things going on. This is an answer to my question on Facebook. I was asking about the ZV-1, the Sony camera, the vlogger camera that is potentially very good for some people. And Jeff says, I've used the ZV-1 to live stream a few times with no overheating. And are you recording at the same time? Yes, now I'm remembering. Thank you for that, Jeff. I'm remembering it was the recording that was problematic. That I was able to stream for long periods of time. But once I started to record, I was having overheating issues. So that's when I realized this would be okay for streaming, but it wouldn't be okay for if we need to record the stream on the camera. And it also wouldn't be okay if we needed to use this for a documentary style interview. I'm not going to be able to use it for that. So thank you for reminding me of that. Dennis on Facebook is in, I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, Guernsey? I can't even say it. Guernsey. I'm probably still saying it wrong. Guernsey Channel Islands. And Dennis says that he's learned a lot about the Lumix GH4 camera from my videos in 2016. Thank you. And let's see what people are saying on Twitch. So Eric is using the capture card. The capture card that he uses is the Pengo HDMI grabber. I have never heard of that one. Thank you for letting me know about it, because the Elgato wasn't available at the time. Yeah, I kind of wonder if there was like a run on Elgato cam links, especially during the, during the peak of the pandemic when people needed these kinds of devices. Eric also points out that 4 employees at his work have become parents recently, and it makes for fun Zoom calls. I feel like Peter has the perfect like level of Zoom intrusion. He likes jumping in on my meetings, and he comes in just frequently enough or infrequently enough that no one's annoyed, or no one lets on that they're annoyed. I mean, he doesn't spend the whole meeting with me usually. It's kind of like this. But he comes on just long enough to say hi to everyone. Everyone waves, and they're all excited to see him. So yeah, it's fun. Zoom meetings are definitely more fun with a child. And Eric says once he turns 4, he'll become my full-time PA. Yeah, I mean, he is. I'm training him how to use all this gear. I mean, he already knows. I mean, kids are so good at technology. I mean, he knows how to use this mixer that we have here, because I've let him play with it a bunch. And I kind of resolved early on. I mean, even when he was like pretty little, I tried to teach him how to handle a camera carefully and not drop this thing. And for a while, there's a time when I was looking at like cameras, children's cameras you could buy, and we thought about something like that, like a silly little plastic camera that comes in pink or something. I don't know. But the more I thought about it, I realized I have extra cameras. I have lots of cameras. I'd rather just get him confident holding this and using this, and then one day he can actually help me. And on his 3rd birthday, I handed him one of these cameras, threw it into intelligent auto mode, and he took a bunch of photos, and they were really good. They were actually like framed well. He took some really cool pictures, and they were all in focus because the camera was doing the autofocus for him. But he actually like has framing skill. He's probably learned most of that by using iPhone camera. He has that experience. And so I like that he actually like knows how to pick this up, turn it on, and he can take pictures with it. And I'm glad that I'm teaching him this camera and to respect my gear and not drop it, because that's a problem with children. So the sooner that I could teach him to be gentle with this stuff, the better off I am. And yeah, I like to involve him in all this stuff if I can, because I think he can help me and find joy in it, hopefully. Okay. We are approaching an hour and a half. I'll probably go in like an hour, after an hour and a half, or an hour 45, like total time here. So I'll probably stick around for another 10, 20 minutes. I do want to talk about my lighting. So we'll talk about that, but I also want to check the chats real quick. Make sure I'm not missing anything pressing here. Okay, yeah, let me talk about this. Because I also want to see if anyone's interested in purchasing some lighting that I no longer use. And I may make a separate video about this to reach more people. But if I happen to have someone on this feed right now who is in the market for a couple aperture lights, I have too many aperture lights, and I'll talk about why. So I just got two of these aperture. Well, they're aperture lights, but they're kind of using the sub brand name Amarin. I got the Amarin 200X lights, and I really love this thing. It's a little bit smaller than my other aperture light. The other aperture lights that I have are the Aperture 120Ds, and those are the ones I need to sell. I have a 3-light kit of Aperture 120Ds. I don't want to sell the 3-light kit, but I'd probably like to offload 2 of these lights. And so I'll talk about a little bit about what I love about this light and what I still love about the other ones in case anyone is interested. But the reason I picked up these is because they're a little bit lighter. They're plastic. The other ones are a really nice metal construction, but they're heavier and they're a little bit bigger. And these are more powerful. They're 200. I think the 200 on these things means like watts or a watt equivalent or something. Now I'm confused. Maybe it's lumens or something. I don't think it's lumens. But 200 is more powerful than 120D. The X, this one is also a bicolor light. So that's what I'm using right here. I actually have, let me switch to this camera. I have another 200D, or sorry, 200X up here. They make a 200D, and it's not a bicolor light. It's just 6,500 Kelvin or 5,000 Kelvin. I can't remember what the color temperature is. It's daylight colored, I think, though. This is oh, what mode am I in? I'm in. Oh, Pete was playing with this camera. That's why. Oh no! Now you can see all my. Yeah, there we go. Now we're back to normal look. Pete had put this into like photo mode, and it was in like time lapse mode, and it was recording video somehow. Okay. So this is the Amarin 200X, and I like this camera. I like this light because it's bicolor. That's one thing I was missing with my 120D. And I like that these are a little bit more powerful because I did feel like sometimes I needed a little bit more light because I like to send them through diffusers like this. This is the Aperture Lantern softbox, which looks pretty blown out here, but it's actually a really nice soft light, which you can see on my main shot. So I'm kind of like bouncing it off the wall. I mean, kind of diffusing it even more by my placement of it. But I am using over here this other light that I have. Let me focus on it. Well, I am having trouble focusing on this one because it's so bright. This is a 120D over here that I have in the corner. And so the 120D is a great light. I mean, I've gotten by with them just fine for years. Really solid construction. It's not quite as bright as this new one, and I liked that this was bicolor. But they are the 120Ds because they are built stronger. They're more rugged because they're this all metal construction. They're just made really well. They do cost more. I think they cost like $540 or $525 new. And so I'm curious if anyone is in the market to buy these. I actually, because mine came in a 3-light kit, and I'd probably be willing to sell these separately because I assume people might want to buy these separately. Mine came in a 3-light kit, so they didn't come with they came with one case for the 3 lights. They didn't come with individual cases. If you buy one new, you get it with an individual case. So what I actually did was I went to Aperture and I bought some cases from them. So I have brand new cases that I can throw the 120D in. So if anyone is out there who wants a $525 light but wants to buy it at a used price of probably like $400 or $425 or something, let me know and I can put it in this brand new Aperture box and ship it to you. Let's say $425 free shipping in the US. But let me know if you're international and maybe this is hard to come by. Maybe we can figure out a way to get it to you. But if anyone's actually interested, I mean, you can just email me at hi@griffinhammond.com. Commenting here is probably not the best way to do it because I'll probably miss it. But just email me if you or just spam me on Twitter or something. Just send me lots of messages. Like I said, I'll probably make a separate video. I'd love to make a video about this equipment, why I chose these Amarin 200X lights. I really like them, and why I'm offloading the 120D lights, because I just don't need 5 lights. I am usually using 1 light, sometimes using 2, like I am right now. I was very rarely using all 3 lights in that 3-light kit. But going forward, I kind of like the idea of keeping one 120D, because it is just that solid, just really well-made light. And then because I do so much traveling, I like that these are a little bit more compact. I think the other thing the 120D does that these don't do is the 120D can be powered through a V-mount battery. It has V-mount built into it. These don't have that. So a few different features. Oh, and Eric says that maybe he's interested in the lights. So yeah, think about it. I've done this before. I've done like YouTube garage sales where I sell off stuff that I'm not using. I mean, I think that's an important part of this chain of being a freelancer is you got to get new stuff. You got to try out new stuff. I'm glad that I got these new lights, but I definitely don't need 5 lights. And so I should offload them as quickly as possible and recover some of that money. Otherwise, it's just sitting there, not being used. Let's see. Any more comments? I don't see any more comments on Facebook. Don't see any more comments on Twitter. I'll stick around for a few more minutes and answer the last few questions coming in, and then I'll let everyone get back to what they're doing in Sydney and in London and in where else is everyone coming from? Let's see. Elon wants to know what happened to Indie Mogul. I mean, Indie Mogul has changed hands a bunch. Last time I knew, it was owned by Ted Sim, who runs Aperture, the lighting company that I was just talking about. And that's when he brought me in to be on the channel. But to our conversation about parenting, it just got to a point where I was still a new parent and I was trying to do all these other things. And Indie Mogul, I just didn't have enough time to be making videos for the channel. I know they then brought on some different people, and yeah, I don't know. I imagine if I had to speculate, it's that running a YouTube channel is hard. It's hard to find an audience, and audiences are diminishing, and it's just hard to be a content creator. We all know this. And so if your goal was to make money on it, maybe they weren't making enough money on ads to be worth the time and effort. I don't know what the current status is of the channel. The TC says that coming in from Los Angeles, thank you for that feedback. Menki Tenzin wants to know, could you please recommend a video camera to make documentary film for beginners? I mean, I don't know if you're willing to spend, I think is it like $500 for the ZV-1? I keep talking about the Sony ZV-1. I think it's a really good camera. And especially if you're doing documentaries, I guess, well, I mean, you get to edit a documentary. So like, I don't think you need the ability to record for an hour-long interview and like without chopping it up. Like, I think, especially if you're just getting into it, I think a camera like that could capture the interviews you need. If you have to stop and start, that's not a big deal. Well, maybe it's more expensive than I thought. Maybe it's like upwards of $600 or $700. Best Buy sells it for $750. But it's such a powerful camera, and it has a little zoom on it. It looks beautiful. I think you could make a really solid documentary with a camera like that. But then again, a lot of people, like Scott Slaughterbeck in the comments, is recommending the GH4. A lot of people do recommend the older Lumix cameras that are easier to come by because, I mean, the GH4 is still a great camera. It's what I shot. It's not even what I shot Sriracha on. Sriracha 8 years ago, I shot it on the GH3. And then I got the GH4, which could shoot 4K. I'm sure you can find a GH4, whether it's used or new, for, I don't know, $500, $600. You have to buy some lenses. But Eli is talking about the XT3 camera. And everyone has, I mean, not everyone has smartphones, but a lot of people have smartphones, and a lot of them can shoot pretty good video. So like, I would encourage you to start flexing your documentary muscles. If you're just saying like, I want to start shooting documentary and I haven't done it yet, maybe the first thing you need to do isn't to go out and buy a camera. Maybe the first thing is to pick up the camera you already have and start making something. I mean, you can edit that video, start making something and see what kinds of things you like to make, what your style of editing is. And then you realize, oh man, I really like to zoom in on stuff and it always looks bad on the smartphone. I'm going to need a telephoto lens because I like to shoot wildlife. And now that kind of influences what kind of camera you may want to get. The ZV-1 by Sony is a great vlogger camera because it's very wide angle. But I imagine you're not going to be filming like a theater production with that. You're going to be zooming in and getting a tight close up on stage. You're going to need a big lens like that to do that. So it depends on the kinds of things you like to shoot. Shark wants to know if there are any great prime lenses you can recommend for the GH5, GH5S. I love this 12 millimeter f1.4 lens. I use it all the time. I love it as a prime. The other primes I use are on this camera. This is the on this camera that you're seeing right now. This is the 25 millimeter. I love that as a portrait lens. Great for taking headshots. Also, just a beautiful interview lens. And then I also have the 42.5 millimeter prime that I also like. Those are kind of like my 3 solid primes that I love the most for Lumix. But if you're getting into documentary, I might invest in the 10 to 25 millimeter. It's an f1.7 lens and it's a zoom. So it's kind of like a prime zoom almost. It's a 10 to 25. So really nice wide angle stuff. 25 is a really great like medium portrait interview shot. I think it's 1.7 throughout. And I mean, you could shoot everything on that except for the long stuff, which is not, how often am I at an event and need to zoom in? I very rarely use this big lens. Those are the primes I would recommend. And the TC recommends trying to shoot with the cheapest camera that Netflix allows if you want to sell the product. If that's what you're going for. If you're not just brand new, but you're actually trying to shoot something, you have the skill already and the storytelling experience to sell something to Netflix, then yeah, I think there's a few limited Lumix cameras that are like Netflix acceptable. I feel like the S1H is one of them. But yeah, I don't know the full list of Netflix acceptable cameras. Well, I think it's almost it's time for me to go be a father and go see Peter. I've been away for too long. So I want to thank everyone who joined me on YouTube. Thank you all for coming. I want to thank everyone who joined me on my first Twitch stream, especially my friend Nalani and Dustin, and my friends Nick and Brett and Matt, who all came over to Twitter or to Twitch. Thank you. Let me make sure I'm answering the last Twitch comments here. Oh, this is a nice comment from Lee Homie 86. Hey Griffin, just want to say that you've been a huge inspiration for me. Love watching your videos. I started a YouTube channel and I posted my first video just last month. Thank you very much for saying that. I get so much positive feedback like that. That's the kind of thing that keeps me wanting to, do a stream like this or make a tutorial video. The kind of stuff that I do doesn't always reach the most people. I'm not making like the most exciting, controversial content. I'm not reaching millions of people. But when I get feedback like that, it just tells me that this is a valuable use of my time to share the things that I've learned, even if it only impacts a couple people. I mean, anytime I've done a filmmaking workshop, for 10 people in a room, it's always been valuable because people feel like they've gotten some little piece of inspiration. I mean, even if all of the equipment I just talked about today, even if you don't need any of it, and it may not apply to most of you, but if there's one little thing I said that encourages you to go make something, that's great. Thank you. Well, this went longer than I expected I would go, and we got to do a lot of fun things. Let's check in real quick before we go with the fox in the backyard. It's still live. It's still going strong. Thanks, HDMI transmitter. I'm glad that I've officially field tested it. It's actually out in the field of snow. We know that it works in really freezing cold conditions. I'm glad that camera is still going an hour and a half later. Good to know that it can withstand the really cold. I mean, it might be sub-zero temperatures right now. I don't know what it is outside. Let's see. That's an important question before we go. We'll go to darksky.net. It's showing me New York, which is not where I am. It's 13 degrees, feels like -1 degrees Fahrenheit right now outside, which means it's too cold for me to run outside. I haven't not done any outdoor running in the last few days. Well, I learned a lot today doing this stream, and I hope you enjoyed it. I will try to bring more streams to Twitch and to YouTube in the future now that I have the technology to do it. So thank you all for watching. Thank you for all your questions and comments. And I'm going to play you a little video that I made as an outro. I mean, it is a video. It's just like slides and music. I'll talk to you later.